So Todd, you're someone that's a fan of our show. You've listened to a couple, you said, right? You paid attention to the Flores and the Nimmo interviews.
Pretty good.
So how excited are you to be a part of it now?
I wish I was number one, man. I'm a little disappointed. I gotta be honest with you. I wish I started the whole thing. No, it is. It's fun.
They were the guinea pigs.
Yeah, they had to be.
Yeah, we had to try them out.
Get the younger guys in there, and it makes for a good laugh. I had a good time watching it.
Has it gone around the room that this is a big honor now? Are guys chomping at the bit to get on the show?
Not necessarily, no. But I'm glad I kept it quiet because I didn't want anybody to know it was my turn.
When we make T-shirts, we'll make sure we get you one.
Yeah,
Perfect.
right.
You're a big T-shirt maker. I mean,
I love it.
We go right into that.
Yeah.
What got you into the T-shirt game?
It's my next thing. If baseball doesn't work out for me in 2 or 3 years, I'm going to T-shirt business. No, I had a buddy of mine, Damien, who works at the 500 level, came up to me and was talking. He wanted to make just regular shirts, with my name and some holograms and all this different stuff. And then I'm like, a month later, this thumbs down thing came up. I'm like, dude, let's go. Let's get after this. And then next year we have the salt and pepper thing. So we had a good little thing going. So I'm trying to, carve up the MLB and get some more designs here.
You joke about that's my next thing, T-shirt making. But Wayne and I were actually talking about this. You seem like a guy that when you hang it up, you're not just gonna ride off into the sunset. You could, I could see you like
They're
working
never getting rid of you.
Right. I could see you working a deli counter and just talking to everybody coming in. Have you thought at all about what's next?
Well, let's go back to my first job here. How about that? I'll explain it. My first job, my neighbor, Georgia Leonard, she delivered newspapers, so I had to put the newspapers into plastic. So that was my first job. I made $5 every night. Loved every second of it. My second job, I worked at the boardwalk. What do you call it? Carnival barkers.
Yeah.
And,
you did that?
Oh, I loved it. So I worked at the basketball station where, you can edit this if you want. We bend the rims a little bit. It made it harder for the guys to come in. And,
What was your shout? How did you get people to come over?
I mean, the more you talk, the more money you made. So you get an extra money on the side. So, I mean, if for example, you see a guy walking down with the white shirt with the muscles hanging out, hey,
Right.
I'd be like, hey, come on out, check it out, try it out, win a lucky prize. For your lady over there, she can come over here, try anytime she wants, shoot it on in. And my voice would change, and next thing you know, man, I see my boss over there laughing. They'd come over, they'd miss. I'm like, bud, you want to see me make it? I'd make it because I knew what part of the rim to hit.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, go, give me another one. That's how I made more money. So bam.
How old were you?
I was 14 years old,
So
freshman in high school.
So you've always had this ability to talk. I mean, this has always been
the gift of gab.
Yeah.
Always, man. And then the next job, I was at ShopRite. I was in the bakery department. I mean, I couldn't make this up. It was unbelievable because the guy knew who I was, the owner of the ShopRite, and I worked there for 6 hours. So I was like 10 to 4 or 12 to 6. And I probably worked 3 hours a day because he took me on like a 3-hour lunch break. So we would go to get buffalo wings on him, of course. We're shooting shop about baseball, and next thing you know, I get back there and ladies like, listen, I remember she's like, again? I'm like, hey, what am I supposed to do? The boss, she's like, don't worry about it. And I'd be in the back eating donuts, I was good at designing cakes too, so that was something I perfected for sure.
Were you, a mini celebrity at that age, having been on that Williams?
It was
team?
big. It was big time. We really didn't know what we really did until we got back and had a huge parade, and that kind of took off my baseball career there. And ever since then, when I go to Tom's River, it's fun because I'll just go get a bagel in the morning and I get mobbed, which is cool. It's humbling, it's awesome, and it's where you're from, so it's good stuff.
At what point did you guys feel like you could even win that tournament? Like, when does it start to click that you can actually go ahead and get out there and win?
Yeah, I think once we got out of the sectionals was the biggest one. So we won our district, which was teams around our our division and around our hometown. And the sectionals was I think Jersey, there's 3 different sections. We were section 3. And we lost the first game. So we had to come back and win 4 straight. We end up, beating every team, just crushing them. And then next thing you know, we end up winning that and getting through that 4-3 with Scotty Fisher. He had the nastiest curveball ever. I mean, I wish he was a professional now. It's just, tougher times. But and then win the state finals, man. I mean, it was once we got to Bristol, where we represented New Jersey, I think we knew we had a really good shot.
Are you, when you start that process, is it even like a realistic goal? Do you guys think you're good enough to get there, or are you just having fun and all of a sudden you're there?
No, without a doubt. I mean, when you first start our 8-year-old team, there's a tournament in Vineland, New Jersey. or no, Barnegat, and we ended up playing Vineland in the finals. You know, we just ransacked everybody there. 9-year-olds, same thing. 10-year-olds, same thing. And then when we turned 11, me and 2 other guys played with the 12-year-olds, so they, you know, they didn't have, you know, the big guns with the team. You know, if you per se, sorry, you know, if we're speaking truthfully. But and then when we turned 12, you know, we just knew, hey, we're facing the same guys. They might have 1 or 2 guys that, you know, all of a sudden, you know, took off, but I led off. I usually hit a home run, and you know, the rest was history after that.
Have you been back to Williamsport?
No, I haven't.
So this
It's
coming
20
up
years.
is going to be big for you. I mean,
Yeah,
back
it's
in
gonna be
Williamsport
huge.
and playing
It's
in the
gonna be
Little League
huge.
Classic. What are you looking forward to about being back there?
Pretty much everything. I'm looking forward to seeing Steve Keener, the president. I'm looking forward to seeing the different field they have now. Just everything, you know, the pin trading. I might try and play ping pong with a couple of guys. I mean, what they have set up there, and if you guys are going, which hopefully you are, it's pretty neat. You need to take, like, if you're going to go there for real, you need to take 2 or 3 really good days to kind of, you know, sink everything in. It is. It's fun for kids, and everybody that works there doesn't get paid. So it's all out of the goodness of their heart, and you know, the slices of pizza are $1, and everything's cheap, and it's wonderful for the kids.
You mentioned ping pong. You told Jack Arute on ABC that you're the king of ping pong. Are you going
Without
to
a
go
doubt.
defend your title? Is that
Without
what-
a doubt.
When you were 12. That
When
was
you were
it,
12,
when you
yeah.
were 12.
And right now, too. So it doesn't matter. If we had a ping pong table in there, I'd be #1 for sure, without a doubt. But it is what it is. It was fun.
Can you believe it's been 20 years?
No, it's been unbelievable. I mean, I feel like whenever this time comes around, you know, we always talk about it. Everybody's like, aren't you sick of it? I'm like, no, well, you know, would you be sick of something that you're proud of and what you did and, you know, what it did for not only New Jersey, but for, you know, for the United States? I'm saying, no, I'm not sick of it at all. And it's crazy that it's been 20 years, though, for sure.
You know, that championship game, you were the star of that team, and you were the star of that championship game. You hit the leadoff home run, like you said. I think you went 4 for 4,
Yep.
and you also were the winning pitcher that day.
Yeah, and that's something.
I mean, that's a pretty good.
When you're in Little League, you get 3 guys. You know, your #1 pitcher, your #2, who are like the, you know, the key cogs, and then there's me. I was good until I hit my best friend in the head with a fastball, and then I could have sworn I had the yips, and I didn't know what that was when I was 12. But I would throw it on the mound. I'm like, oh my God, why am I shaking right now? And I had to start one game. We ended up winning. Gabe Gardner hit a monster home run. Thank you, Gabe. And you know, just one of those things. I got the win. It was just crazy.
I have read and heard you talk about this before, though, so we're not breaking anything here.
Yes.
But I just found out that that leadoff home run, you cheated a little bit there.
Hey, you know the funny thing about that? Our coach comes up to us before the game and says, hey, you know, look back. And you know, I'm just listening to coach. If you can find a way to look back and see where he's positioned. I remember looking back, and the kid looks up at me like this, and I'm looking at him like, oh, all right, I'm going inside. Then that pitch that came and hit the home run. And, just so funny thing, because Jim Palmer was announcing the game, and Brett Musburger. Like, oh my God, you do that in today's game, you're gonna get me on your shoulders. And I'm just like, wow, you know. And they showed a replay of me basically going like this, and I scooched on back. I'm like, and the kid threw a perfect pitch to me too.
For those people out there that, if you're listening to this and you want to go back, it's on YouTube. You see the home
100%.
run and you see the final
your
out.
greatest hits are on YouTube.
But it is amazing. I mean, it is noticeable how you take a couple of steps back and crank
You
it.
don't seem like you're any different now, though, in watching those old interviews.
No, not at all. I loved it. You know, Kevin Kiernan was there when I won the Lloyd World Series, and me and him were good
Is
friends.
he any
there.
different?
I guess so. I don't know. He's old.
He's
now.
probably a little more crotchety about the game today now than he was back then.
100%. There was no Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff where you know, he could complain about it. So it's all good now. Crazy.
Yeah, it seems crazy. Well, it should be fun to go back there next week.
Yeah,
But
I can't wait.
you know, this is your first full season in New York. You got to play with the Yankees at the end of last year, but just this last year and a half to be back in your home area, has there been any difficulty? A lot of time you hear players say that moving home is tough because you have so many more demands and everybody is on you about tickets or whatever. Have you felt any of that playing for the 2 teams?
No, you get it here and there. You know, in certain games, you know, when I was with the Yankees, every Red Sox game, it felt like somebody's like, hey, man, you got a ticket. I'm like, sorry, man, I'm toast for the week. Or, you know, when we play the Braves or the Nationals, for some reason there's a lot of people all of a sudden out of the woodworks that, like, oh, you're playing the Nationals, you know I'm a big Nationals fan. I'm like, since when? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, just because, you know, Bryce Harper or whoever's playing. But, yeah, it's good. It's all good. I think being close to home, being closer and around your kids more, I think helps not only myself but my wife out too as well.
Your brother's still local? Do they still
Yep,
live?
still live in Toms River.
So, for people that may not know, you had two older brothers, both played pro ball. One of your older brothers got a cup of coffee with the Tigers,
Yep,
was
yep,
it?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks
actually,
with the
yeah.
Tigers. So you're the youngest of three brothers growing up,
Yes.
and the older two are clearly exceptional athletes as well.
Yeah.
As you look back on what kind of molded you to get you to this elite level that you're at right now,
Yeah.
how critical was having those two to your development?
It
really?
was huge. It was huge. I tell everybody when I speak in front of people, in front of crowds, or in front of an audience, I always thank them because they never let me play with friends my age. I always had to play with guys 3 or 4 years older. I was always the last one picked. That first year, I was always the last one picked. Basketball, baseball, football. I mean, our neighborhood, we played a game called, kill the man with the ball.
Yeah.
And this is what so you throw the ball in the air, whoever picked the ball up, you basically try and kill him. You crush him. You want to tackle him, but it's your buddy from the neighborhood. But maybe the day last week that buddy was pissing you off. It's like, all right. And next thing, I wasn't afraid of the ball, so I'd go get it. I'd be one of the first guys to get it, and they just couldn't. I would scoot one way or the other, and eventually they got me down, and they're sweating. I'm like, all right, here we go. And then, the year after, I wasn't the last one picked, and then all of a sudden I'm like number 2 or 3 picked, and I'm 3 years younger than all these guys, and just from watching, I think kids nowadays need to watch more. They're always on their phones. I'm avid on the phone too as well, but I understand. Like even my son now, he's big on iPads and stuff. But when he gets older, I'm gonna tell him just watch what guys that are supposedly better than you or older than you. Watch what they do and watch how they prepare themselves. And that's what I did. I watched how my brothers, what they did, and then all of a sudden I see them like discouraged about, hey, why'd you do that in that situation? Playing basketball. Why did you, throw that bad pass? What were you thinking? And next thing you know, it would just. My brain would just collect everything, and when I got in those situations, it kind of came rather easy to me.
Was there a moment when you thought, you know what, I could play Major League Baseball? I mean, obviously you were on the national stage much earlier than anybody else, but was there a time where all of a sudden it went from this is a fun game that I'm pretty good at to this is a realistic thing I can do for a living?
It's funny that you bring that up because there were a couple instances, but one thing that comes to my mind, my brother Charlie's playing in Kane County. Low A ball with the Marlins, and my dad, they let me actually take batting practice with him, and I'll never forget it. So I'm picking up the wood bat, I'm not really used to swinging wood bats, and I'm like, all right, this one's good. He's like, this is a 35-inch bat. I'm like, oh, well, it felt good. And I'm hitting balls off the wall, left field, right field, and I'm like, and other guys are just playing pepper basically, and I'm hitting them farther than some of these guys, and I'm like,
how old are you?
I think it was 13 years
13,
old.
okay.
And it was my first year playing in a bigger field. And maybe it was the balls or something that were so special. I don't know what it is, but I was hitting balls left and right, and then the pitching coach was just so amazed. He's like, take another round. So I just kept hitting them left and right, and I felt like one of the guys. And I'm like, this is pretty cool, man. I think I would love to do this for the rest of my life. And I got my first letter from a major league team in 6th grade.
In 6th grade?
Yes, in 6th grade, the Blue Jays. I'll never forget. They were there to watch my brother Charlie play. He's like, Todd, I heard a lot about you. Just fill this note card out, and it said Toronto Blue Jays, date of birth, and I remember it had the thing where it said, click the boxes of what you had. And I'm like, oh, my neck was hurting that day, a neck problem. And then my mom's like, no, don't click it. It's not, you don't have chronic neck problems. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and I'll never forget that. So I got my first Major League Baseball later in 6th grade, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Did you get a lot of interest from teams when you were in high school? Because you went obviously to play college ball at
Yes.
Rutgers. So what was that? How did you decide that it was going to be college and not pro?
Yeah, that was interesting because my brother was getting drafted the same year. So he got drafted third round to the Tigers, and when you're in high school, it's about be honest, it's about the money because if the money's not in a certain spot, you're going to go to college. And for me, there's a couple teams that basically said, would $500,000 do it? And I said sure. And it was a scout that said it wasn't a cross checker or a big time GM, but nothing fell to fruition. And the Rockies and Mike Garlotti, who was the scout then, who's a good friend of mine still from New Jersey. We drafted you, just because you're a good friend of mine. Maybe some money will come through, and nothing came through. So you're not mad at anybody. It's just the nature of the business.
So there's nothing then in you as a kid. You're 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
Even though you got drafted the 37th round in 2004.
Yes,
right?
37.
Even though it is the 37th round, maybe not a lot of money's coming through. Is there any part of you that even is fighting with your parents a little bit, saying, I mean, just get me into pro ball? And
I'll be honest, none. I didn't have any because you start to understand, like, hey, if you don't fall in this, you know, you're definitely not going to go. And, you know, for me, it was natural because, you know, I was happy for my brother getting drafted 3rd round. And, you know, if the guy showed me the piece of paper where the certain amount of money would be, all right, then we're talking. But I know it's going to such a really prestigious program in Rutgers with Fred Hill over there. And that's where my brother Jeff just went. So I was already used to, you know, I knew where all the bars were and everything. And where all the good spots were and, you know, where we shoot the and all that good stuff. So it was really good.
You know, Fred Hill was like 70 years old when you played for him. What
Hey,
was that like to play for a guy who was been around for so long?
Let me give you some Fred Hill. This guy, if you people don't understand, he was one of my favorite coaches ever. He'd have these sayings. You know, I never heard what a red ass was when I was young. He's like, hey, why you got – and this, he talked like this. Hey, Moose. He called everybody Moose. And for me, in my opinion, he just forgot our name. So, hey, Moose, why you got such a red ass today? And this is how we talk. I'm like, red ass? What are you talking about? He's like, you know, your ass is red. I'm like, what? I'm like, all right. Then we weren't talking the whole time. And next thing you know, he's like, hey, come on, man, a little piss and vinegar. And like he would scream this out. Well, I'm like, what is it piss and vinegar? And like we were so confused. So I did this speech about him and did all, we called them Mooseisms.
Right.
And I had the crowd laughing and, oh my God, man, just like, what is piss and vinegar?
Did you ever find out? What
No, because every time I ask him, like I asked him last year when I functioned, I'm Moose, explain to me what piss and vinegar is again. He's like, you know, piss and vinegar. And I just, we were just laughing our asses off. It's just unbelievable.
I love it. You call him Moose too.
Yeah, yeah.
And your
that
version,
became his
by the way,
nickname.
your version of Moose has kind of become Big Dog, right?
Yeah,
That's
without a doubt.
Big
Without a
Dog.
doubt. And his wife was the best. She was so funny. She has a collection of rocks. I can't make this up, man. These are just, when you play baseball, you get the funniest stories. I can write a book. And all of a sudden, you knew she was there because she would bang them. Boom. It'd be like, ding, 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 ding. When she wanted a home run, it'd be like, bing, 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 bing. Like, and you hear the different noise. So whenever I got up, it was bing, 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 bing. I'm like, all right, I guess I better try and hit a home run here. And she'd be yelling. And it was just, it's a great family, and examples are just out the roof with these people. It's awesome.
Do you think if you hadn't gone to college, you would be where you are? Were those years formative as a baseball player for you?
Yeah, they were huge. They were huge, especially my junior years when I really like broke out, and I got Player of the Year in the Big East, unanimous Player of the Year, and I broke all types of records, and I broke all my brother Jeff's records, which I was happy about. And yeah, that kind of kicked us off. We won the Big East. We went to our first tournament again. We played against Virginia and Sean Doolittle, who ended up losing to Darwin Barney and Oregon State, the eventual champion, and we lost to them twice actually. But it was fun. It made for good stuff. It made for good. And we got 6 other guys drafted that year, and they actually thanked me, and I'm like, dude, I appreciate that, but you know, you guys did your part too, so it was a good fun
Just
year.
because scouts are there looking at
Yeah,
you. And
exactly,
then,
exactly. It
So
was
then,
cool.
and then you get drafted by the Reds, and then you finally had to leave Jersey. Was that
Yeah.
Tough to finally get out of the state
It always
of New Jersey?
is. It always is. I mean, I went
It's a little bit of a different
the
place
farthest
too.
west. I went to Billings, Montana,
yeah. Oh, yeah,
and I had a
right.
host family who were the best host family in the world, and it was great. It was really cool. They gave us a pickup truck. I could have sworn it was 80 years old. That thing would just be, all of a sudden it would just stop. You're like, oh, here we go again. But it just made for good times, and you know, that grind of the minor league where it starts then was really nice.
You were a college bat. You're a pretty high draft pick, and you got to AAA pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember you at AA. I was with Mobile when you
Oh,
were with
yeah,
the Mudcats.
okay,
So you were a top prospect, but then you get to AAA and you kind of stall. The Reds
Yes.
are really good at the time. They are trying to win division titles. They signed Scott Rowland.
Yep.
Did it start to get frustrating that you were ready but not in the big leagues?
Oh, it did. It did. I'd be lying to you if I said it didn't. And you know, I struggled a little bit during that time too. That league, that international league, the ballparks are bigger, you know, and everything else about it. So it's like, all right, we just picked up this guy, and then they moved up another guy, and it's like all of a sudden when I finally figured out control what you can control, which is very hard to do at, you know, age 22, 23, and I said just play your game, and you know, you'll get a lucky break here. So I got called up. You can't make this stuff up. I get called up in Philly. Everybody's excited. Hour and 10-minute drive. I pinch hit, strike out. At my first swing, I threw the bat in the stands. I'm like, oh, here we go. I look at my buddies in the stands. They're like, yeah, Frazier, you stink, you know. And Dusty Baker brings me in the next day. He's like, Frazier, I got to be honest, I've never done this before. Bronson Roy only went less than 2 innings. He's like, we got to send you down. I'm like, dude, I got 6 busloads coming. I said, what the hell are you talking about? I've gotten sent down. I'm like, Dusty, this is unbelievable. I got sent down, actually struggled again, and then got called back up the next month. And basically took off from there.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you brought it up, but to grind it out like you did, finally get that shot, go back down the next day, as best as you can here. What was that ride back like after you had that conversation? How tough is it to get yourself back into a mental place?
It was terrible. I mean, I'm talking to family members. I didn't want to be around anybody.
Yeah.
They're like, you'll be all right, Todd. I'm like, thanks, Mom. I'm ready to get the heck out of here. You felt sorry for yourself, and that's the last thing you want to do. I mean, they put you in a tough spot. The business, but I got sent up and down way too many times on that team, and it's just the way it goes. And actually, I'm glad to be here. It took me. My road was a little bumpy in the beginning, and then I cruised right on through those next couple of years with the Reds.
You kind of caught up to your brother in AAA. You guys played against
Yes,
each other
yes,
in some games. What
yeah.
was that like
That was
to
awesome.
see your brother on the other side of the field? That had to be the first time, really, in like a real game that you played against each other, right?
It was pretty cool. I remember two instances. He hit one in the gap, and I was playing left field at the time, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm running, and I'm like, that's my brother. Do I just pretend I missed this ball? Do I catch it and hit the wall and fall down, or do I nab him? So I actually caught this darn ball. I caught it, but as I was catching, I literally hit the wall, and I'll tell him to this day that I did it on purpose. But then I actually didn't. It ricocheted and it shot out. So luckily it looked good. I didn't want anybody yelling at me like I was doing it. But then the other instance, he hit the ball down the line. Literally, I came through it, and I see him going to second. I'm like, oh, hell no. I said, what you doing, bro? I took one hop to second, hucked him out, and I looked at him like this running. I said, don't like Dikembe Mutombo his head. And, he stood up like this, like I just stole something from his bed. I'm like, don't be doing that crap, Bubba. And it made for some fun.
When you got up and stuck with the Reds, I mean, you had some great moments. Those teams were really, up and coming and fun. Who were the guys, or was there one guy that really had a huge impact on your development once you got to the major leagues for real?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even a baseball player. I think the one guy that I always think of is Eric Davis. He was my mentor, through and through. I still talk to him to this day. He was the guy like, hey, don't worry about nothing. Keep swinging. If you keep hitting, they'll find a position for you. And he was right. He was right. He was always telling me, Frazier, listen, I'm attacking all these in these meetings. I'm telling them we need to find one position for you. It's messing with your head, this and that, and the stuff that people don't hear. The viewing audience, the watching games. They see me playing, 3 different positions every week, and eventually, he said, you hit. I got called up there, and Joey Votto went down. I remember like it was yesterday. Joey Votto went down. I played first base. Did great, and then Votto came back the next day. Roland got hurt, or vice versa. I forget which one was first. And then I went to third, and I batted 273. I had like 19 homers and like 300 at bats. I did really good, and here we go again. The next year, how about this? The next year, I make the team out of spring training, and the day before we have a practice, before the first game, they brought me in. I remember Walt Jocketty and Dusty Baker bring me in and say, hey, we just picked up a pitcher. I'm like, okay. I'm sitting there like, cool. What's that mean to
Thanks
me?
for telling me. Yeah.
Alfredo Simon, I'll never forget. He's like, yeah, we got to send somebody down. And I'm like, oh, no. And I'm like, really? I was so mad. I'm like, really? I'm like, all right. I'm like, I'll see you soon. I shook Dusty's hand. I didn't even shake Walt Jocketty's hand. I was so mad. And, if we're being honest, and I walked out, and then a week later I called up. I went 7 for 8 in pinch hit appearances. And I said, no chance I'm going to send down ever again.
That's
and
it.
then that never happened, so it was good.
Did it help you to get called up into that environment? Some of your teammates now are getting called up in a season where you guys are pretty far out of it. But to be in that competitive stage where you're trying to win and you're trying to make the team, does that all kind of help you as a baseball player?
Yeah, I think winning, it helps more. It puts a little more pressure on yourself to be a better player, to be a better teammate. And, once I got called up, it's like, hey, let's go. It's go time. Show me what you got. And I stepped up, and I'm lucky I did, because it was an opportunity for me to, show what I got, play in different positions, and like Eric Davis said, if you hit, they'll find one for you, and eventually they did.
You had some great moments with the Reds.
Yeah.
Is there a favorite one for you?
Yeah, that home run derby has to be the best one. Playing with my family there, my brother throwing to me, and just the crowd getting me fired up. I think, what Bryce Harper did this year, he understands what I went through, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was one of my top memories in baseball for sure.
You know, you lost to Cespedes in the finals.
I
the
know.
year
He
before.
brings it up to me all the time.
Did you ever like say rematch? Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to face him. I think my power's
Maybe
going down
as
a
he's
little bit.
rehabbing from the heels.
Right
That's
now,
what-
right
yeah,
now,
right
I'll face
now.
him, but yeah, he brought it up to me a couple times, and it's all right. It's fine. It makes for some good friendship.
A couple other just specific moments from the Reds that I wanted to bring up, just from your point of view, because I think people have seen these things, and you know, especially the moment where Teddy Kramer was. So I mean, you could tell the story a little bit better, but a bat boy for you guys, part-time bat boy who had Down syndrome,
Yes.
and he asked you before an at bat to hit a home run for
It
him,
was
and you
crazy.
did it.
Yeah.
You know, what? I mean, take us through exactly what he said to you, and then are you going up there saying,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'm going to try and rip this one. Is that a thought?
You know, he came into the clubhouse, and he did it once a year. He'd come in and be the bat boy, so I gave him a wristband. He was wearing the black wristband. I gave him just the happiest guy in the world, man. You know, it puts everything in perspective. How, you know, no care for anything, just wants to be happy. And, you know, a guy like that, you always want to be around. So he's like, hey, Todd, you want to hit a home run for me? I said, I'm going to hit a home run for you. Don't you worry. Gave me a big hug before I went out there. He said, I love you. I said, I love them back. And I'll cherish that moment right there, especially. I'll cherish that forever. And then I get up there, and honestly, I wasn't even thinking about it. And next thing I hit a home run, I hit first, I hit second. I'm like, oh my God. I'm rounding second, going third. And I look to home plate, and he's pointing to the sky like this. He's going like this. And I'm like, oh my God, I really just hit a home run for Teddy. And I get to home plate. We're up like 10 runs at the time. And he wanted to hug me longer down there, and I felt I didn't want to show up the pitcher, so I hugged him real quick, ran off. I gave him a big bear hug, and he just kept looking at the sky. I'm like, it's unbelievable how happy you can make a person just by doing, you know, something like that, and how hard it really is to do if somebody else you're hitting a home run in Major League Baseball, and that's my buddy, man.
Well,
it was a good time.
your idol growing up was Paul O'Neill, and on Seinfeld, he couldn't do it. He couldn't do the 2 home runs, right? That was
that's
it,
right.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but it was a very special moment for me.
Man, why didn't Paul O'Neill give you his number? You just
Yeah, I'll be honest. I talked to him about that, and he just wanted the whole thing to be at her. I'm like, dude, tell him to retire your darn number. You're gonna get me in trouble here now, and yeah, just something silly that some fans take a little too serious.
How did you settle on the number you did wear with the Yankees? They just gave it
That
to
was
you?
basically next in line, I guess. So I said,
The one that wasn't retired, I guess.
yeah,
Nice.
that's it. So that's it.
All right, so before we let you go, a couple rapid fire things that people kind of know, but maybe don't know the full story behind. So you come up to Frank Sinatra, and obviously you get that Jersey connection, but
Yes.
but
Blue eyes.
but there's something about your grandparents too with that,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, they played. My grandma would always play it in her house, and I'll be honest, I hated it. I didn't like it in the beginning. It was just like, Grandma, come on, can we play some, 50 Cent or something else going on here? And she was like, no, you'll end up liking this. Don't worry, it's like a fine wine. I remember saying, I'm like, okay, and I don't like wine either. Now I'm starting to like it. I'm like, Jesus, she was right all along. And she did. Eventually, I got older. I started loving the music, and it just reminds me of home. It's a homely feel. It's relaxing, and she's still alive today, which is pretty cool.
You another thing that happened while you were at the Reds is that you saved somebody's life in a restaurant in
man.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
With the
I almost
Heimlich
blew
maneuver.
past that one.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened?
God, oh man, dude, I'm telling you, I'm going to copy this interview and make a book about it. This guy, we're eating at the Capitol Grill, me and Ryan Ludwig, and it was just the craziest thing, because he was just talking about it yesterday. He's like, I'm going to take you to dinner, but, I hope nobody, we talk about people choking on food or whatever. He's like, I had to save one person. I'm like, whatever. We get to this freaking place, man, and I'm looking to my right, and I'm talking about, and I see two ladies. This guy was a heavier guy, and two ladies, one on each side, trying to pump. I'm like, oh my God, that dude's choking. He's like, Frazier, go. And I asked him to stay. I'm like, why didn't you go? Because I did one already. He didn't want to go again. So I told ladies, get out of the way, just spur the moment. I could barely get my arms around him. I gave him two, Heimlich maneuvers.
Yeah.
And, you think about the cartoon, how it just shoots out. This didn't shoot. He grabbed it out, and I mean, it almost looked like the size of this cell phone. How big it was really bad. I was flabbergasted how big a size it was, and I still never talked to this guy.
I was going to say, when you
I never
so
found out who he
there's
was.
no
He
connection
doesn't know,
afterwards.
he
He
doesn't
doesn't know.
that Todd
connection.
Frazier of the Cincinnati Reds
He
saved
might
his
know.
life.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know who he was. Like, if you picked three guys in a row, I probably wouldn't remember what he looked like. But he said, I'm going to pay for the meal on this. I'm like, well, we appreciate it. And I was like shaking still a little bit. You know, that's like a surreal kind of moment. And lo and behold, Ryan Lug was telling everybody the next day. And I'm like, Ryan, shut up. And it caught wind. But I'm glad I helped him out.
Oh, man. Flavor Frazier.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we know what that's from. Flavor Flav. Was the flavor of love big in that time? Was that? I mean, is that how this
Have
came
you ever
to
put
be?
a clock around your neck?
No, I haven't. I remember my buddy in high school in my freshman year. He was probably the toughest kid in high school as a freshman, and that's why I always hung out with him. And my brother was in the school too. My brother was tough too, but this kid just didn't. He worked at a graveyard. His name was Ryan.
Kid was a freshman in high school, worked at a
freshman in
graveyard.
No, he went. No, listen, this son of a gun, bro. I'm not making this up. I swear to God. His name was Ryan, and telling you, he wasn't the biggest kid. He was big freshman, but he was, you know, you look at him like he's a little crazy, you know. And he's like, Frazier, I'm tired today. He's like, I'm just gonna call you Flavor Frazier. I'm like, all right, cool, you know. And I'm like, Brian, whatever you want to call me, you call me. Bro. You understand that? He's like, graveyard shift was crazy last night, man. I thought there was people coming in and trying to ruin the graves. It was 2 wolves. I'm like, wait, there's wolves in Tom's? I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? I was like, dude, did you wrestle the wolves? This is just insane what you hear during the day. And I don't even know if the kid made it through senior year. He was just a nut, and that kind of stuck with me, the flavor. And it kind of went away until you know. That show
Until the
did
show,
come
yeah.
out.
He made a comeback.
And then
with
me
that
and my
show.
wife were talking, and we were like, you know, we don't want to do Todd Father. How about we do, you know, Flavor Frazier, 2-1, and that stuck, man. But the stories behind the stories are just the best. I love
People
it.
are going to move to Tom's River now because of
Hey,
all this.
don't go near.
I
Ryan.
have
He's
to
probably
say,
still working at the graveyard.
You can listen back to this podcast and write your book, but you are the podcast guest. Like this
trying.
is,
Yeah,
you know, this is the
I
top.
hope this one makes the top of the chart.
You know, usually we have someone tell a Jay Horwitz story, but Todd's kind of new to the team.
He might have one.
You
though.
might, if
We
you
can
have
ask-
a Jay Horwitz
we
story,
can
great.
ask
If not,
people.
but
Right.
if not,
Okay.
It just happened.
okay, let's
Okay,
A
go.
there
couple
we
weeks ago, I'm doing an interview, so just like in this area, but it was darker. And Jay, the guy's like, "Hey, sir, can you please move?" And Jay's like, he's looking around. He's looking. He's like, "What'd you say? What'd you say to me?" "Sir, you're in the shot. Can you please move?" He's like, "Okay." So he moves, and he doesn't see the light on the ground. There's one light in the damn thing. It's like this long. He trips over and face plants, and like we have to stop the whole thing. And I remember, like, "Jay, you all right?" So we're sitting there. He's walking out. He's like, "Oh, my head really hurts." And I'm like, "Oh, I think I should go check on him." And I'm like, "I'll just stay here." So I saw him after that. I'm like, "How's your head?" He's like, "Oh no, I'm fine, Todd. I'm fine." You know, I'm like, and I look, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I felt so bad for the guy because he just didn't see it. You know, just a human mistake,
He
or
does
just
wear
a Jay Horwitz mistake.
He wears a size 10 hat, so that's a big head.
Oh,
There's a lot
God,
to bust up.
There's a lot of surface
Yeah.
area there.
Yeah,
That's a
What
big
was it?
head.
He's
I'm
fine.
just curious. What was your question going to be if he didn't
Well,
have a
if-
Jay
if
Horowitz
maybe
story?
there's somebody else on the Mets you want to tell a story about.
I'll tell a story about you guys and your good shows that you're making. Hey, I'm gonna go see batting practice. Practice. All right.
You good?
Stevie two times.
Stevie
Stevie
two
Two times. That was great.
What'd you think? How did
No,
we do?
that was good.
Were you really?
That was good.
You're happy with how
tell
this
your
I
went?
was happy. I was happy with yours. I was happy with yours.
Yeah.
You know, Keith
Thanks.
needs a little work. Other than that, we're
No,
good.
but with the podcast, you're happy
Oh, I
with
love it.
I mean,
This was great, man. This is good. Kind of, you know, brings you back to life and some good laughs. We need that every once in a while.
Good. We appreciate you doing
Thank
it, brother.
you, man.
Yep. And hey, have fun.
Anytime.
Have fun in Williamsport.
We'll do.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
All right, Todd Frazier.